You're spending time, energy, and money on LinkedIn ads, but how do you know if LinkedIn is really influencing your pipeline? Let's learn some tips in this episode of Closing Time. Thanks for tuning into Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, VP of Marketing for Unbounce and Insightly. Today, I am joined by Deivis Rupslaukis. He is the founder of Deru Digital, a B2B paid media agency. Deivis, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited to talk today.
Well, let's jump right into LinkedIn because honestly, in the B2B space, LinkedIn just reigns supreme. These stats always blow my mind. There's over 1 billion users and nearly 135 million of them log in every day. You can't argue with those numbers and the power of LinkedIn, right?
No, especially in B2B. I mean, there is no better place to advertise or even post if your industry is B2B. And I think it's going to keep on growing.
So I'm personally in the B2B space. I've always been a B2B marketer. And I would say we spend about 10 to 15% of our advertising budget specifically on LinkedIn. So we know it works, but we also know we have to be there, but we do have trouble tracking those results, like knowing when we can credit LinkedIn for at least getting us into the consideration set for a B2B SaaS purchase.
And you're not alone. One thing to note is also that I think more and more advertisers are shifting the budgets from, let's say, paid search to LinkedIn, mainly because of like the targeting possibilities. But I think a lot of companies are still not convinced that they want to do that because of what you just described. How can we make sure that LinkedIn works? How do we know? The short answer is you kind of don't know 100%, but at least you can have some indication if it's working, right? So I prefer to look at LinkedIn not like you look at Google Ads from demand capture perspective, if we can use that term, because LinkedIn is more about generating demand. Well, even that term again, maybe is not the greatest to use, but basically making aware that you exist and making aware of your product. So obviously, majority of the people to whom you expose your ads to are not ready to buy, and that's why you have LinkedIn for the other big percentage of the market that are not ready to buy. But then, of course, still everybody wants the ROI. Everybody wants to see some sort of influence, and exactly the influence is something that you can try and measure by one way or the other.
I do agree with you wholeheartedly about LinkedIn's targeting. It lets you get so much more granular, for instance, with like employee size of a company than Google does. So it really does make it appealing for marketers to jump in there. And well, you have some practical ideas for really finding out if LinkedIn is doing its job. And one of them is simply having your sales reps just ask, right?
Yeah. So either sales ask or you just add it in your forms. So, just another field of how did you hear about us? We've had clients where we literally don't see any conversions happening within LinkedIn's interface, but then we look at their CRM and we see people mentioning LinkedIn, either from sales conversations or people filled out that themselves. So, and I think some companies are still not using that specifically in the forms because they are scared that the conversion rates are going to go down. But I think there was some agency already did a research or some sort of analysis based on their clients. And actually the conversion rates improved, oddly enough. So I don't think people need to be scared about conversion rates going down. It's just going to be additional data point for you to evaluate the effectiveness of LinkedIn, basically.
I love this next tip. It's a little manual, but even if you're just cross-referencing your inbound leads with your LinkedIn target demographics, you might find some gold there, right?
Exactly. So we do it on multiple levels. One is on contact level. So we basically look at a certain period of time in your CRM, which leads came in and companies, extract that, basically download, go to LinkedIn, look at company view, and then either look at the same time period or add an extra look back window. Maybe let's say if we exported last 3 months from the CRM, then we look at, let's say 6 months on LinkedIn to see if we have shown ads to these accounts, to these companies. It's not ideal by any means, but it is kind of like a little bit of workaround to just prove that at least you're targeting the right accounts. They are coming inbound. We are showing them the ads, and in some cases you can also see if they clicked or not. So that's one way to try and talk about the influence of LinkedIn.
I love that, because marketers, we all wish we had another person, another set of hands, another agency, more help. I mean, it's manual, but if you're really looking to double down and know if your investments are paying off, it's a really great way to do it, even if not all the time, maybe just periodically. So that's a great tip. Another idea is investing in a full-blown marketing attribution tool. There's a lot out there, Wicked Reports, Heap. I shamelessly will plug LeadsRx because they are owned by our parent company, Unbounce. So that's another good one. But how do you feel about just in general attribution tools?
I think it's great. That takes out all of the manual work that I need to do. Plus, it plugs in not only to LinkedIn, but all of your sources. Granted, there's going to be a lot of the things are happening before that you're not able to track. I'm not disputing that by any means, but at least with the touch points that you can track, it can make you create you a better picture of what is influencing what. And then I particularly like the kind of opportunity journey views that a lot of these attribution tools have, is where we can see when they saw what, when sales called, when email was sent, all of these things. Now, of course, we cannot say that, just because they saw on LinkedIn ad doesn't mean that LinkedIn influenced it all. Of course not, but it's part of it. That's one. And then you can also try to do some analysis by look at all your deals for, last 2 years, for example, that had a certain touch point versus the ones that didn't. And then you can look at different things. Maybe somebody closed faster, maybe somebody closed at a better rate with having some certain touch point versus not. So I think having these attribution tools are amazing. I literally had a meeting yesterday with a client and their team, and they started to use one of the attribution tools. And this RevOps guy was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" So he was super happy with this. So I think it's definitely a great thing to use. Granted, not everybody can afford them.
It's a cheat code, but it requires, investment and of time and resources to get it set up. So with that in mind, let's talk about the revenue attribution report that you get from LinkedIn. Anything that's supplied by a vendor always worries me a little bit, but you can get some value from that report.
Yes, 100%. So this is something that LinkedIn basically rolled out kind of quite recently, and it's only available on the business manager level. So in order for you to leverage it, you need to create business manager. Everybody has campaign manager. You need business manager for that. And there you can connect your CRM. It takes around 3 days where it, gets all the information from your CRM and then connects together with your LinkedIn, and kind of does that influence the report in a way that we used to do manually. So now that we have that option, I'm not doing it manually anymore, of course. But it's not the greatest overview. It shows you like how many contacts you had, how many, and maybe not even MQLs, I think, but opportunities and closed ones. It's super duper simple. And in that view, you don't really see which accounts were influenced. And also the pipeline, the revenue and everything that is attributed. It's not distributed. It basically, it takes the value from your CRM and attaches it to that report as if LinkedIn was the one influencing it all, which we know is not the case. But again, LinkedIn doesn't have information about anything else. They only know their information and what's happening in your CRM. So they basically, I'm not saying they taking all of the credit for it, but it kind of looks like it. So I'm not even evaluating based on revenues. I'm mainly looking at which accounts I've reached to opportunity stage. And there we can now, again, as of recent, literally download that report where we see in the Excel your Salesforce account name, the account name or company name from LinkedIn and LinkedIn URL, and everything else, like when it was closed, when it was opened. And then we see way better view of which accounts specifically we've reached on LinkedIn. And then they have different attribution to kind of measurements based on impressions and clicks. Still, it's not great, but you can see something finally, at least on what is what is working or what is not, and which accounts are going to your CRM with the LinkedIn's influence. So again, the more we have to prove that LinkedIn is bringing us something, the easier it is to convince to spend more, basically.
Right. Yeah. Just another tool for the detective work that is, marketing attribution, right? I wanted to chat with you a little bit about impression capping because LinkedIn doesn't do impression capping. And for those who aren't familiar, it's basically defined as an advertising strategy that limits the number of times a unique ad is shown to a specific user, account, or geography over a time period. So as a consumer, I think I kind of like this. As an advertiser, I'm not so sure. Talk me through it.
All right. So what we've noticed is that a lot of accounts that we manage are reaching the same accounts over and over again. So let's say you have 1,000 accounts in your target account list. You are reaching like 70% of that, meaning that 30% don't see any ads from you at all. And then out of that 70%, there's going to be like 10% that are eating up majority of your budget. So the distribution is not equal between the accounts. And it's important to reach as many accounts as possible, as frequently as possible, especially considering the 95 and 5 rule. So we noticed that, and we started to think, okay, how can we, equalize the distribution? Because you can do it by, changing the objective on your campaigns on LinkedIn. You can set everything to reach, but that's going to be quite expensive based on our experience. If you put for engagement, again, it's going to show to the same accounts all the time. So how do you do that? And we basically managed to create our own workaround for it with what we call impression capping. So we basically go into the company's view and look at the companies who have gotten more impressions than a certain threshold. So let's take, 200 impressions in the last, 60 days. We create a list of that. Then we exclude that list from the campaign and we create another campaign where we target just those with smaller budgets. So then we distribute, let's say we spend $200 for just one campaign. Now we're spending $150 and $50. So now we give these companies that never seen the ads a chance to actually see them. And we actually, for what we did is for one client, and we actually saw quarter-over-quarter growth in the companies reached. So it clearly is working. And then secondary things that worked really good is that we decreased CPC and we increased impressions and reach. So we spend the same, but the results were way, way better now. Because again, if you constantly show your ads to the same people, same accounts, they're not engaging anymore. So everything seems to go worse. Your CTRs, your CPCs, everything started to perform a little bit worse. So that's something people need to really, really pay attention to. And I think not a lot of people are talking about this.
I mean, that's a really amazing tactic you've got there. Is that something that you just decided to try on your own? Because it feels like it should be something you should be sharing with everyone out there.
Yeah, I mean, I am trying to share this with everyone, but the reason why we came up with this because I looked at our own agency ads and I just spotted it that our ads are reaching the same accounts all the time. So we had to figure out, okay, what could we do to reach these other ones? And then we implemented this for ourselves, and then we started to implement it for others as well. And then we could clearly see the effects of it. So but speaking of impression capping, I just saw today a post where there is some beta version where you will be able to set some sort of impression capping or frequency capping. I can't remember now if you are running brand awareness campaigns. Let's see when they roll out, if they roll out. But I think that's the feature that is something that everybody really wants to have. But then the question is it going to be on the user level or account level? Because that's also a little bit of a difference, right? But interesting that LinkedIn is listening to some of the feedback that we're giving and implementing some of the changes.
It sounds like LinkedIn's catching up with you, so that's great.
Yeah.
Deivis, if our audience wants to follow you, learn more about your agency, where should they go?
Most likely LinkedIn is going to be the biggest one, my profile. And then the other one is just deadwooddigital.com. You can learn more about the agency and how we do our stuff.
See, proof that you practice what you preach, right? You say, go find me on LinkedIn. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on Closing Time. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. Remember, if you want this episode delivered to your inbox, just click the link in the show notes below. We'll see you next week.